Having me up here. It's always an honor to come to CFTRI. I have to say, this is where a lot of our innovations actually started. So thank you to everybody at CFTRI because you have made many impossible things possible. And I think that's one of the things that I'm here today to actually share with you. Let me start with our journey and why I'm actually here to actually talk to you. All right. I want to talk to you about inspiration. The product part will come later as soon as we launch it, and that's something that Dr. Babu Padmanabhan will do much better than me. But what I want to talk to you about is about people. In everything, there is product, process, and people. But people are what make process and products. Products have a lifeline. People don't. People can evolve, change, adapt. And this is the essence of actually what I want to talk to you about. This is the story of us. 18 years ago, we got together into this idea of collaborative innovation. Now, what does that mean? It's very simple. Everyone wins. In economics, there is something called game theory. It's called win-win. It's in economics, so it's not supposed to be practically practiced. However, somehow even that has become possible today. And that's what Connect Ventures is all about. We are not an organization. We are an organism. What I mean to say is that we are able to ebb and flow to the needs of society and be relevant, right? I mean, that's the most important part. When we talk about food and when we talk about anything else, we have to first start with the basics. We have to start talking about soil, and that's why we got into soil. We have to talk about water. I mean, how can we manage water better? Because our food comes out of soil and water. Without this context of the environment, how can we talk about anything on top of it? So what we began to do in the past 18 years is actually build this ethos, starting from soil, water, waste, energy, until we got to the top of the pyramid, which was performance. Performance is today, we're talking about training Olympic athletes, the special forces. But how does this all fit in? The foundational environment, what Mother Earth has actually provided us, is still the fundamental building block of every cell in our body. If we are unable to take care of that, how can we do anything else beyond that? And so, over the past 18 years, we have created 26 verticals successfully. We're not being funded by anyone. What we've managed to do is work together. It's about people, it's about cooperation, it's about collaboration, and most importantly, it's about creating relevant outcomes. And what you're about to witness today is that. I want to take you to our journey in CFTRI because without CFTRI, none of our journey in food and none of our journey for what we are going to present today would be possible. Our journey started off with a problem that we had to solve for society. So we have in our lab, we have many people who come in for health. A problem that everybody knows about is, everybody needs to have more proteins, have to have more vitamin Bs, have to have more omega-3s. But it's quite difficult if you actually look at all those food groups and you actually have to put it together in one unit. And this is where we won the Elevate in 2018, and with the graciousness of CFTRI, we got incubated here, and thus began this journey. What I will do is, I will take you through the journey itself to show you where we arrived today by these collaborations. The first part of the journey, of course, was to create this biscuit, this flour. And we did that successfully in CFTRI with Anudeep and his team. And this is our first incubation. So what I want to share with you is how this first incubation evolved over the past 5 years and what it became thereafter. So we now have this composite food. That's great. So now how do we get it out to the market? Because my expertise is in creating this food and dealing with only 100 athletes. How can we now take this and make it a part of something bigger? How can we make it into a movement? So here comes the next part of this. As I said earlier, this is the collaborative innovation part. So, recently we got hit by COVID. And what we did during that time is actually build an algorithm for anyone to see where the deficiencies or their issues were. So Anudeep and team created, because we obviously can't get out of the house at COVID, so how do we use our time? So we said, okay, this is a great moment to actually come up with a nutritional algorithm for anyone. You load your food in, you use the NIN database, and you're able to pull up cooked food. If you see everything today, the only thing that you see is, you see fats, proteins, carbohydrates. That's it. What about our micronutrients? What about our fats? What about our fiber? nobody has any visual aid to aid them. So what Anudeep did is actually come up with this algorithm, and this is somebody's food log of everyday food. It breaks it down into its micronutrients, breaks it down into its fibers, breaks it down into everything. Bear with me because this is a part of that story. It's leading to something, right? But I want to share with you the components that build a story. So this is Anudeep's team. Now, let's move ahead. So why do we do this? We want to predict a problem. So now let's say that you're an individual and you're eating a certain kind of food. You know, I know that there's supposed to be a lot of people with B vitamin issues. The first question should be, are we even eating food that has vitamin B in it? But for some reason, we don't have clarity on that, right? So imagine this. The everyday man is not worried about whether he's eating this or that. He only worries about it after he has a problem. Is there a way we could predict this before the problem arises? And not before COVID, nobody was interested. After COVID, many people are interested suddenly because now health has become something integral to us, right? So here's what happens. We break it down, and then over here you can see what the Indian database, and I say Indian database because, do you know, most of our information, other than all the good work that you do over here, is on Caucasian. All our sports science comes from a Caucasian background. Our genetics are not Caucasian. So why are we banking on them for our nutrition? Why are we banking on them as databases for our microbiome? Why are we banking on them for all of this? So our mandate was actually to begin to create Indian data, right? And this is one of those pursuits of creating Indian data using the resources that our government has already created for us, right? And this is a story of hope because this way we can see what is good for us as Indians from this country, right? Not as whether a ketogenic diet may work for you or not. I mean, how do we know? So let's go to the next part of it. We started working with many companies to begin this story together. This is a very interesting company. They're called Ultrahuman. They've just been funded for $27 million to do something very basic. They put a CGM on you, which is what you see over there, on the lady's hand, and are able to predict the glucose variability using a phone. It comes onto your app, and this is the marvel of technology. And what they're able to say is every single food group that you have, how you are responding to it, you know, but they just have one metric, it's just glucose. Now, if you go to the last part of the story, we now have something that we've created here with you all. We have that NutriFact. We call it NutriFact, the algorithm that gives us this nutrition. Now we take that and we're able to place it along with some real-time data, everyday information that is accessible to you, right? Now we have two layers of information, one that's happening in real time. And every time you load your food, you can also have this nutritional avatar, if you would, a virtual version of yourself. Okay. So now let's move on to the next part. Okay. So remember I told you that we're doing a lot of work in health. We want to bring cutting edge health services to India. So what we have is that part of our health division is actually had a blood spot amino acid testing. Now everybody says I don't have enough of protein. Okay, let's test your blood and let's see whether you need any more. Interestingly, most of the time you don't. It's only particular maybe protein sources that you may lack. But this is what data can do for us, right? So we began to do this testing. It's what our performance, all the units of performance actually do. So that's where this became relevant because these are our blood spot tests. It goes to everybody's house. You just prick your hand, you put a blood spot, you send it back to us, and we do the analysis, right? But the metabolites are very interesting. So yes, we said we have vitamin B deficiencies, we have deficiencies in this, you don't have enough omega-3, but how do you check it? Because today's world, nobody believes anything. So what we needed to do is bring validation to what was happening in the human body, right? And that's why we instituted these tests. So this can go to everybody's house and then suddenly, you have this ability to perceive yourself, introspect, and to see what happens with your own body, right? So this is amino acids, omega-3, even the gut microbiome. We worked with a company to actually come up with the first gut microbiome testing, right? And this is how we began to stitch this together. Why is fiber important? Fiber is important because of the microbes that actually work in the gut, right? But how can you see the ebb and flow of this? And over the period of the past 5-6 years, this is what we've been able to institute. Now, we come to the last part, the last part of this. So yes, we have all of this stuff. Now what? The everyday man just needs a simple resource that comes home that he's able to consume over what he's doing already. The burden of decision making, the burden of being on a diet is not in the nature of us. Most of us can't keep a diet, it's not sustainable. So we have this thought. Said, if I'm able to break it down into units, if I know what you're missing, could I then use sources like the metamorphs that we had actually come up with, or other foods, and actually make something customized for you and send it home? And of course, even this is possible. And this is what we managed to do. So this is actually where you can go online and you can actually just put your data and what it will spit out is this end food, if you like, or what you should have. So you have both options. This system is agnostic. It can help you on your level or come up with a solution for you. This is what I meant by an ecosystem. When I stand here, it almost looks like I came up with this by myself. But actually, it has nothing to do with me, and this is what I talked about collaborative innovation. In this audience today, I have people who have supported this movement, and this is what we're able to do today. So if you look at it, this is a precision food journey that you can stitch for a populace, for an individual, for a unit in the army, for anyone. Pulled, it's a system that pulls, it's not a system that pushes. And today, I want to tell you that I'm not standing here by myself, right? Because there are people over here who made this valuable contribution to be able to bring our first state-of-the-art precision food. I mean, this means that every individual is different, and we can validate that, come up with foods, and we can participate in this venture. And what I would like to just share with you is that this whole journey started with metamorphs in CFT, right? And without that, none of this would exist. The algorithm was built here. So when you talk about a support system, I think we are blessed to have such a support system. Because what we can do is only come up with an idea. But how can we conceptualize this idea? And then you have the resources, the ability. And again, thank you. I'm standing here to be able to thank you, and that is amazing. 5 years down the line, that's what we did with this one small foundational food. And for me, that is a story of inspiration. Because over here, what you see is, if I can ask Varun and Mon to please stand up. These two guys are the part of the performance lab that actually were here. So they're the guys who pulled backwards to say, this is where the problem exists, and can we solve this problem? Right? Priya, can you stand up? It's her father's factory where they're actually customizing the food. This is Indocore. And my point is that this is the participation of what we have. Her father could not be here because he had another appointment, but in lieu of that, I asked Priya to stand up. And this is all independent companies. We're all collaborating to be able to do this. It's not my company, it's our company, it's us. And CFTRI is at the epicenter of this movement, right? And that's why I thought it's fabulous to show how a small idea can evolve into a concept, and a concept can thus evolve. What you see over here is the last part, the customized therapeutics part, is actually because of Alok and Sudha over there, if you guys can get up. You know what, everybody, thank you. But I just wanted to tell you that I'm not standing alone. And when I'm standing here, those guys are the ones who are standing behind me, but you can't see them, they're standing behind you. So that's why I just wanted to bring that up. My point of view is like, I can't employ somebody like Alok, I can't employ them. You know why? The best resource is an unemployable one. The best resource is a guy who already has his company, who's confident enough to do what he wants to do. If I have to employ someone, I will only have somebody I can employ. But I want a partner. I want a collaborator. I want a leader, right, who to work with. And that's what you see, because Going Nuts, Alok, who's actually been in one of the most phenomenal marketing people that I know. That's their company. Let me tell you why. They do dried fruits. They do dried fruits in India and they're successful. If you can do dried fruits in India and you're successful, you can be successful in anything else that you can do, right? Because that takes skill, that takes effort, because you're talking about a simple product that's freely available, but somehow he's managed to crack this to be able to do this, right? And that's why when I stand here, I'm pointing out that, I'm not standing here by myself. And of course, there's Anudeep and his team who are standing behind the curtains, so I can't particularly show them, but this is this journey that we've actually made together, right? And I wanted to thank CFTRI because that's the first part of our journey. That's our first incubation. The second incubation is what we're here to talk about, but I thought it's a great lead-in into people. Because right through COVID, right through all of this, we used it to our advantage to be able to come up with whatever it is that we had to come up with, right? And this is the next part of this that I would like to share with you. Great. So this is another collaborative venture for the Phimers. Now, I will come to what Phimers is, and Phimers is really, really simple. We have all this food. Now, how do you pack all this food? I mean, single-use plastic is a menace. So this is where this problem arose, and then we began to look for solutions for it. So obviously, me and Anudeep, we're at the idea stage where we're like, okay, we have a fantastic idea. Now, where do we go? Again, we're back to CFTRI. Again, they helped us to incubate this idea and conceive it. So this is the second time this happened. So looks like suspiciously we may be building a model without actually knowing it. Now we built this, and then the next thing we have is like we have the small prototype on small piece of paper in our hands, and then we're wondering, okay, this is great. So we've solved the paper problem in the world. I have one small sheet of single-use plastic in my hand. What next? And that's where Steer comes in. Steer are by far the most prolific engineering team anybody can work with. They've been our partners and collaborators. Here's the thing, I didn't have to bring scale. They understand scale. They understand engineering. They understand compounding. So this again became a collaborative venture, right? So we joined hands with them. Why? Because everybody has great ideas. Nobody's able to take it out because of scale. But if you try to scale, that's not my gift. My gift is something separate. And that's why we have, if I can please ask Dr. Babu and Satish to stand for a brief moment. These are the gentlemen who actually helped us do this part of the scale. So they run this company, they're among the top 5 companies in this kind of technology in the world. And today we're able to scale and offer our technologies across the world because of them. And that's the thing that, of course, Dr. Sridevi will launch later today. But this, again, I'm keeping it suspense. I'm trying to keep it like suspenseful, but it's not working very well. So this is what we've come up with. It's a biophilic product that is nature loving. It can be blown into film. It can be molded, and it can be thrown away, and it's safe for the environment. In fact, it enriches the environment, right? And that is just a small brief of what this product entails. I just want to leave you with that because I want you to experience it and actually see what this is all about. I'm sure that they will set this up right now, and I will now exit the stage before, and I will get Dr. Manilal, if you could please come up, I think, for the next part of the conversation. Good.